What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie. Started this channel to discuss all things Frank Zappa. I have since, after doing almost everything he's done musically, tours, albums, songs, I've expanded his concept of the big note to include other artists. And today we land at Madvillain and the album Madvillainy. Because the Zappa connection is they sample Sleeping in a Jar. The end of track 2, pretty much into the beginning of track 3, has a really nice Frank Zappa sample. There is also a George Duke sample on this album. But this is their one album together. I can't rank the band's catalog because sadly, this duo, MF Doom, essentially the rapper, MC, and essentially the beatmaker, producer, Madlib, they only did one album. It was this, 2004's Madvillainy. I'm not even going to say arguably one of the best hip-hop albums ever made. It is just a ridiculous, it is an MC rapper at the peak of his game. It is a producer at the producer of his game. The beats go together perfectly with the flow. And despite, there's also a Zappa element in sort of the overall nature of the album that further connects it to Frank Zappa. First off, there are a couple themes that kind of run through the album. It is called, the group is Madvillain, or the duo calls himself Madvillain. The album is Madvillainy. And there is sort of this like villain theme that runs through it. There are no skits per se on this album, but throughout the album, you have like, I think they're old like 1940s, 1950s, like radio spots, maybe TV tracks or radio shows about villains. So you get this like, you know, these old villain sort of descriptions that pop up throughout the album. And then in a lot of the songs, you know, things that deal with like relationship stuff, there's the term villain pops up a lot. They use that term a lot to sort of like, you know, connect the little snippets of radio stuff with the actual lyrics that Doom is delivering. And then there's also a lot of marijuana references on this, including probably what may be the funkiest, if not one of the better tracks on here. What is it? America's Most Blunted, that just has his amazing like 3-note bass vamp that's just like boom, boom, boom. I think I'm off on that, but just lays it down. I think it's the longest track on the album. Just utterly irresistible. But the thing about this album that kind of makes it like a Zappa album, maybe like an Uncle Meat or even something like a Leather, is there is a very sort of eclectic nature from track to track to track, where it's almost like you're listening to the radio, only every station on the radio is hip hop, and you have it on scan, and it'll just like hit a station, you know, for a song, go to another station for a song, you know, and so you're going from like a relatively straightforward hip hop track with beats that are like, yeah, that's a recognizable sort of drum sound, into something a little more weird and eclectic, into like an instrumental jam, into a snippet of a radio thing from the 40s, into another weird little, you know, Gentle Giant sample. There's a lot of really good samples on here. And not only are the samples good, I mean, I think we got a George Duke, Zappa. I think there's some Stevie Wonder on here, a Gentle Giant, a Sun Ra. Sun Ra even gets a shout out during his sample. Not only are the samples good, but the way the samples are used are really imaginative and fresh. And it's like, yeah, they're doing stuff with the material. They're not just like laying it out there. Like they're using it as raw material and creating, or at least at Madlib is, and creating these amazing sort of backgrounds over which MF Doom can lay down his rhymes. And MF Doom's delivery in this part, I would say half the songs, maybe not even half, or have a more, you know, philosophical bent. Maybe he's trying to say something important, you know, harping on relationships or the theme of villainy. But then like the other half are just him delivering like couplet after couplet after couplet. And like every couplet is just like, oh, I got to remember that. And then the next one, you're like, oh, I got to remember that. And like the next one, you're like, oh, I got to remember that too. And they're clever and they're fun and they're interesting. And at times they're laugh out loud funny. At times they're somewhat subverting expectations. Like one of my favorites of all times, I actually had to write it down, was spit so many verses, sometimes my jaw twitches. One thing this party could use is more booze. Like really, you thought another B word was coming after that, but he manipulates the rhyme. He kind of defies expectations. The lyrics are just ridiculously listenable over and over and over again. There are so many lines that you could just like, oh, that's the one. No, that's the one. No, that's the one. But yeah, it's just an amazing listen from start to finish. And it really is just like, it kind of reminds me of something like Leather, where Frank would have all these kind of different styles of songs, and he would put these little like the sort of baby snake shake your booty noises between them, or people talking, Bozio and O'Hearn making comments. And so there's that sort of connective thread through all the songs. Another thing that Doom does in particular with his flow is there are times when he's obviously in the pocket, but there are other times when like there's like this amazing beat underneath, and it's almost like Doom has no idea what the rhythm is. He is just going and going hard, kind of like Frank would do with his guitar playing sometimes. We're like, does Frank even know what the rhythm section is doing right now? It's like, does MF Doom even know what the beats are doing right now, what Madlib is laying down? Because I'm not sure he does, but it works. It is so, in a way, it is a fun, fearless, but important, but purposeful, but ultimately rewarding. It is one of those that when it gets in my CD player, in my car, it does not leave my CD player in my car for like a week, 2 weeks at a time, because it is one of those that you just kind of want to listen to it again when it's over, or at least I do. But yeah, man, you got to check it out. If you're not into hip hop, I think almost everything I've done on this channel so far has been prog rock-ish. Obviously with ties to Zappa, it makes sense that most of it is prog rockish, but we did a little BOC, some Little Feat, some Grateful Dead, psych rock also in there. But this is just easily one of the best hip hop albums ever. You have a foot in the door if you're a Zappa fan, because there's a really good use of Sleeping in a Jar. It's short, and it really is just like, we used it, it's here, we're going to put it on the album. It's a pretty short experience. I don't even think there's any flow over it, or he doesn't even drop any like lines over it. But it's still pretty good. But yeah, man, it's a great album. It's a great listen. It's about 45 minutes long. I think most of the songs are around 2 minutes long. I think there's a couple, maybe 3 of them. One of them's like the best one, America's Most Blunted, I think is like 3.5. And then everything else is mostly around 2 minutes. Short little snippets of just utter brilliance. There's also, if you do check this out and you do listen to it, prior to them doing this, they collaborated, MF Doom and Madlib collaborated, and there's sort of a raw demo version of this album. And some of the stuff on there would come on here with, different verses, or, added lyrics, or just things kind of tweaked a little. But if you like this, some people argue that the demos are better because there's a rawer quality to it, but this is almost as perfect as you can get. But yeah, that's all I got to say. I wanted to give this album a shout out, trying to expand what we include under Zappa's concept of the big note. Eventually, we are going to hit jazz, but all the jazz artists I hit, I have huge catalogs, so I'm not ready for that yet. But trying to get our foot in the door, trying to get some more genres on here. But anyways, yeah, highly, highly recommend you check out this album. That one right there, Madvillain's only album, the only one they did, Madvillainy, came out in 2004. Easily one of hip hop's bests. That's all I got for today. Let me know if you've heard this album, if you check it out, what you think. Comment, subscribe, like, share. But most importantly, find this album and listen to it. And that is your assignment for today. Peace, y'all. See you next time. Thanks.